Bullshit.
Okay. Well, I've been watching Graham Hancock's new series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse. Have you seen this at all, Gretchen?
I do not have Netflix
Oh,
or support
yeah,
Netflix.
okay.
Remember
Okay.
when they started supporting pederasty openly?
Yes, yes. I remember you and Joe dipped out, and it's commendable. You didn't like what they're producing. You didn't like the content. Just, I'm not going to give you the money. I'm too lazy. I give money to anybody. So,
How could we give money directly to Graham Hancock? How about that?
I would like to. I would probably just buy a book from him. I think that's maybe the best way to support Graham. But he's got a new series out on Netflix, and it's very controversial. Very controversial.
Uh-oh.
Everything that he's doing. People probably are familiar with Graham Hancock. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast a number of times, and in conjunction with Randall Carlson, Graham Hancock. He's not an archaeologist. He describes himself as a journalist who goes around the world looking at ancient sites and reevaluates what archaeologists describe as the timeline. Pretty much most archaeologists, mainstream archaeologists, say current modern man. A lot of these ancient pieces of architecture and giant monuments, as far back, they only go like 2000 BC, right around there. Nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing before that. And if you suggest that anything happened before 2000 BC, you're a crackpot, you're a loon, and you might be a white supremacist.
Probably white supremacist.
And that's what they have said. If you type in Graham Hancock, white supremacist, into Google and look at the news, there are some headlines insinuating that this new series and Graham Hancock's investigation in general does support white supremacy. And there's one headline right here. Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix promotes racist conspiracy theories, claim archaeologists.
Wait. So now they're saying simply watching this on Netflix promotes white supremacy?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, that also comes from does that say the Lancaster Mercury News? So
yeah, and
that's someone trying to make a name for themselves.
I suspect so, and that article was taken down.
Yeah, that person was taken up back and whipped.
There is no indication, not that I've seen, that Graham Hancock is supporting white supremacy or anything like that. It's often that angle, that divisive angle, is often used by zealots who want to adhere to a timeline, to a belief system, to a history that they know and love, and they don't want to reevaluate. And so they'll throw names at anybody who challenges their belief system. But I'll read this article here. This is by The Guardian, and this is titled "Ancient Apocalypse is the most dangerous show on Netflix."
That's right.
Uh-oh.
It's the most dangerous show on Netflix. Okay.
So it has surpassed the "Hey kids, let's build a bomb out of common household implements" show.
Yeah, or any kind of show. I mean, they did say Netflix here, so it's more dangerous than Cuties or any kind of weird love reality TV show they have. This is the most dangerous.
Or that Netflix series, Let's Look Through Dad's Closet for the Gun series.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think that you got to really search hard for that one. But this one, it says, this article says, a show with a truly preposterous theory is one of the streaming giant's biggest hits and seems to exist solely for conspiracy theorists. So, seems to exist solely for conspiracy theorists. Why has this been allowed? That's what it says. Why has this been allowed?
Yeah, I like this approach to like appealing to some sort of higher authority. Someone should do something about this.
Why is this allowed?
Look at this headline.
At the time of writing, Ancient Apocalypse has been comfortably sitting in Netflix's top 10 list for several days. This presents something of a mystery because the show closely resembles the sort of half-baked filler documentary that one of the lesser Discovery channels would slap up at 3 a.m. between shows about plane crashes and fascist architecture. Ancient Apocalypse obviously has an audience, but who on earth is it? Fortunately, you don't have to watch for long to find out. In quick succession during the pre-show sizzle reel, we are treated to clips of the show's host Graham Hancock being interviewed by Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan. Racist. Finally, we have an answer. Ancient Apocalypse must be a TV program made exclusively for people who like to shout at you on Twitter.
Leftists? What?
Oh, really?
I don't know Joe Rogan to get on Twitter and start shouting at people. Nor did I really know Jordan Peterson to do that as of late. I think he just got back on Twitter. I think he was banned.
Did Jordan Peterson ever shout at anybody?
No, I don't see Jordan Peterson like shout or yell at people. He can talk sternly, but he's a very meek kind of guy. He doesn't have like a lot of it. He's low energy, like Jeb Bush.
Yeah, he's very, very kind of measured in his approach to things. So
yeah.
The people who are shouting and yelling are the sort of people who are writing this article. Can't
Yes.
someone do something about this? I need a safe space.
Well, it goes on to say, so Ancient Apocalypse must be a TV program made exclusively for people who like to shout at you on Twitter. Of course it is. These people are Graham Hancock's bread and butter, the free thinkers, and that's in quote, who, through some bizarre quirk of nature, are often more perennially outraged than anyone else on Earth. They're drawn to Ancient Apocalypse thanks in part to Graham Hancock's loud and persistent claims that his life's work is being suppressed by big archaeology.
Well, it sounds like it's about to be suppressed by leftist media.
By big media, yeah.
Yeah.
So the thrust of Ancient Apocalypse is as follows. Hancock believes that an advanced Ice Age civilization responsible for teaching humanity concepts such as math, architecture, and agriculture was wiped out in a giant flood brought about by multiple comet strikes about 12,000 years ago. There are signs everywhere, he says. To prove this, he spends the entire television series looking everywhere, which he does do. He goes to places in Southeast Asia. He goes to Central South America looking at pyramids. He even went to Ohio to visit the Serpent Mound. Now, I've been to the Serpent Mound. It's impressive, the structure. Now, when Graham Hancock visited Ohio, Southern Ohio, he was denied access to film there because the curators and I guess the management company who deals with that land at the Serpent Mound said they do not want to partake in the rewriting of history. So they have their belief system, and they don't want to indulge in anything that may challenge the belief system that the Serpent Mounds were built 1,000 years ago by Native Americans. Graham Hancock has suggested that the Serpent Mound was actually built about 10,000 years ago when it was more closely aligned with the sun. And he's got, his theories to back that up. The people at the Serpent Mound, the managers at the Serpent Mound think that this is white supremacy to insinuate that the North American Indians did not build it, and that it's in this white supremacy to speculate that the mound is much older and may have been built by a civilization 10,000 years ago. Although those still would have been Native American people at that time. I mean, not probably what we commonly know to be Native Americans, but a different form.
Keep in mind, two things. Keep in mind, first of all, the name America from Amerigo Vespucci is Italian, so clearly racist white people. So they wouldn't be Native Americans because that's racist.
Yes.
Also, isn't Serpent Mound well known to be it sits on top of a massive crater?
Yes.
From a meteor strike from tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago. So is it impossible to think that somebody may have built some sort of, whatever, they would have had some sort of recognition that this site was special, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 years ago? I mean, it's just, I don't get where they're coming from to say, because we've seen multiple times, subsequent civilizations build on top of existing structures. They say, hey, this was special to them, it's special to us, we're going to build our stuff on top. So Serpent Mound, as we know it today, could be less than 1,000 years old, but that doesn't mean there couldn't have been older structures or older things there going back tens of thousands of years. But apparently that's racist, I guess.
Hey, I'm with you, and even according to the history, the history that is acceptable there, they accept the fact that the Serpent Mound is built right up against a giant crater, and they speculate was caused by some sort of meteor strike, and that it could be the entire land there could be riddled with little pieces of iridium, a very valuable mineral that is commonly found commonly found after a large impact. But regardless, we'll move on to this. So the rest of this article, because it just is very sad. This is the kind of thing that we see quite often in the alternate history community, whether you're looking at the existence of giants in North America or even different stone structures here in North America. Big archaeology, as they like to say, they just ignore it. And Graham Hancock does even reference giants in his series, although he disregards the theory of giants. We can call them Nephilim or whatever. But the race of giants that some people believe inhabited parts of North America, Graham Hancock does not believe in giants. He doesn't dare go there in this series. But he does reference...
Just very tall people.
He does reference those stories, though. He does reference them. So Hancock travels to Malta, to Mexico, to Indonesia, and to the U.S. purely so he can look at remnants of old structures and insist that they prove his theory. No, he does not say that. He doesn't say just because these structures exist, it proves his theories. He says that there is also a fossil record. There is a layer of dirt. There is obvious presence of some sort of worldwide calamity right around 12,000 years ago. And because of that layer of dust that exists there, he says, well, there was some sort of apocalypse that happened at that point in time. And that's why we see so many similarities throughout these cultures. They all have the same story, which is the giant flood theory, the worldwide flood, the one that Noah talks about, that is persistent through a majority of cultures across the world.
Epic of Gilgamesh and others, they all have the big flood.
Yeah.
It's common.
And goes on to say, which isn't to say that that's all he does, of course, because a great deal of every episode is spent railing at the buttoned-up architectural institutions that fail to listen to him, because according to them, the whole theory doesn't stand up to any scrutiny whatsoever. Well, first of all, I haven't seen any scrutiny. I've just seen names being thrown at Graham Hancock. I have seen some archaeologists say, "What's the point of investigating this? It's so old, and there's no consensus either way, so it's just a mystery." I would really love to see archaeologists take apart Graham Hancock series, like do a Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I would sit and watch it. I would watch that. That would be fascinating to me. The result, sadly, given it's about an intelligent life form being exploded off the planet in a hail of comet fire, is preposterously boring. Hancock goes to a place and says, they want you to think it's this, but actually it's that, over and over again. I once got trapped at a party with a flat earther. It was a very similar experience to watching this. An ad hominem attack. They're basically saying, the flat earthers and Graham Hancock cut from the same cloth. To a certain degree, I can see that both question the commonly held belief system and reality of this world, but I think Graham Hancock is grounded in more of a niche area of knowledge where flat earther is all-encompassing. That is the danger of a show like this. It whispers to conspiracy theorists. It whispers to the conspiracy theorist in all of us. And Hancock is such a compelling host that he's bound to create a few more in his wake. Believing that ultra-intelligent creatures helped to build the pyramids is one thing, but where does it end? Believing that the election that election fraud is real? Believing 9/11 was an inside job?
How did they go from this guy's looking at Serpent Mound to the election wasn't real? That's a huge jump.
He says, where does it stop? If you're going to believe that these pieces of ancient architecture weren't built 2000 BC, but 10,000 BC, or if you're going to believe that, where does it stop? Believing in election fraud? Believing 9/11 was an inside job? Worse, if you were feeling particularly mean-spirited, you could suggest that Netflix knows this and has gone out of its way to court the conspiracy theorists. But hey, not all conspiracy theorists are bad. If you don't like Hancock's story about super intelligent advanced civilizations being wiped off the face of the planet, here's another that might explain how Netflix gave the green light to Ancient Apocalypse. The platform's senior manager of unscripted originals happens to be Hancock's son. Honestly, what are the chances?
This is coming from a newspaper columnist who probably got his job because of somebody he knows at the newspaper.
So, not even a fair assessment of this. He didn't even take the time to go through. It's like, well, in episode 1, he talks about this, or like do a real dissection. If their fear is that this conspiracy theory is going to catch on and people are going to believe in a different history, well, then it's up to big archaeology to take apart Graham Hancock's, I think, pretty well-reasoned thought process one by one and say why it's wrong, it's false, why is the fossil record correct, why is it that every modern-day Egyptologist dates everything only as far back as 2000 BC. That's it. How do you explain the flood? How do you explain the book of Enoch that was left out of modern-day Bible?
Well, actually, the Apocrypha is quite a bit larger than that. So there's a lot of books of the Bible. But I'm curious, why is this guy who his article reads as I'm skimming through as you've been reading it. His article reads as though somebody who's not seen more than part of an episode.
Yeah,
and wrote this from a position. You know, he had a position in mind, and he's almost attacking it like it's his job, which kind of makes you wonder.
They are really defensive. It's not unlike what you see when people post something about a controversial documentary on COVID or something like that. They attack the author. They use straw man arguments as opposed to just dissecting it little by little. We'll say, well, they got this wrong. They got this right. There's no reason critique anymore of theories that challenge mainstream narratives. There's no reason. It's one big ad hominem attack.
Mm-hmm.
But they're
going after all the personal. They're going after the personal stuff and going after the audience.
Yes,
not after anything that was presented in the actual documentary.
No,
or series, I guess.
The Telegraph wrote something. Why Graham Hancock thinks everything we know about human prehistory is wrong. His contrarian theories about lost civilizations and hidden numerical patterns featured in the new Netflix series. But how much is true? And so this goes through it too. There are some more reasoned articles that I would say would make the reader a little bit more curious to check it out. I would say that the series is very well done. I'm about halfway through, a little over halfway probably, and it's very well done. He talks to archaeologists at some of these sites, like specifically like in Southeast Asia, where they're digging down deeper and deeper. They're finding evidence of like a cultural layer, which is way below the surface, way below where they expect to find remnants of a civilization, and they keep finding stuff. And so why is it so hard to believe that the Great Flood did happen 12,000 years ago, and that it wiped out an ancient civilization that is way more advanced than what is commonly believed to be true, that Atlantis may have existed, and that once Atlantis was destroyed, the remnants of that civilization spread out across the globe, and that knowledge relatively lived on, at least some of it, to build these giant structures. I don't know why this is so threatening to the establishment.
Yeah, I mean, are they threatened by the idea of the floods taking place? Because that's been documented multiple times. I mean, hell, go look. You want something interesting? Go look at the geology of Lake Missoula, which was probably 12,000 years ago, and that the amount of damage that did to everything west of Idaho. So these sorts of massive floods have happened time and time and time again throughout history. So it's not impossible to say that if there was a even semi-advanced civilization, then that amount of water came piling down would not only wipe them out, but would wipe out almost every bit of evidence of them ever existing. So
yeah, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There's so much backlash to this that there's something else going on. It almost feels like when people start investigating the red-haired giants of North America, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they just say, no.
Smithsonian gathered up all that stuff and buried it.
Yeah, it kind of it feels like that, and it's very sad because then it's very difficult to have these conversations. Because people will read this, like, it's just a bunch of hogwash. It's obviously just more History Channel ancient astronaut nonsense. And even if you are peripherally associated with the ancient astronaut theory on History Channel, you're scum of the earth. That happened with Travis Taylor, the guy who's the scientist at Skinwalker Ranch. Just because he appeared on the show, people are questioning his judgment, what he really believes, and therefore all the work that he may do at Skinwalker Ranch is tainted. It's this bullshit logic, lazy logic, that now rules the way logic is dictated on Twitter and the internet. It's insane. But
well, that's how science works. Is you take what is established and you determine a solution at that point, and everything else is Nazism, I guess.
So, as for Graham Hancock's theory, was there a civilization 20 or 12,000 years ago that was super advanced and may have had help from aliens?
Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Absolutely.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links.